What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Creatives, Connecting Fashion and Film. I am one of your co-hosts, Tevin Brown.
And I am your other co-host, Simone Campbell. And today we have a special guest. She is a model and a content creator local to New Mexico, creating content on beauty and fashion and raising awareness for a very important cause. Thank you so much for having us, Cassandra Rose Cooper.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, if you don't mind my asking first, in terms of raising awareness, tell us a little bit more about how that ties into your content creation.
Yeah, good question. I was like, where are we going to start?
We're getting right into it.
Yeah, cool. Well, my life and, how I got started in content creation all kind of revolves around the raising awareness. It kind of just all happened to me. So in a nutshell, my life happened in, kind of in three sections. So I had NICU babies. I have 4 kids. So I had NICU babies, twins, in 2018. And that was like a crazy health journey for us. Our twins were like high risk, and one of my boys, they're both boys, Levi and Logan, and one of them ended up developing a life-threatening infection in the NICU called necrotizing enterocolitis. It's a mouthful. But yeah, that's kind of like where it started. So in the NICU, I was essentially blogging, but I didn't really know that I was blogging. I was kind of like updating my friends and family on what was happening. Everybody was, super loving and just like, how can we pray for you? And like, can we bring your family dinner at home? Because I had 2 kids at home, and I was at the hospital all the time. So it was kind of chaotic, but it started there, started posting. And then about 6 months after my twins came home from the NICU, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So I have a pretty little scar on my neck. You can see it's kind of part of me now. But yeah, I had a total thyroidectomy, and I went through internal radiation. I did quarantine before quarantine was cool. I did that in 2019, my treatment for that. And then almost to the day, like a year later in 2020, because it was summertime that I was getting diagnosed and going through treatment for thyroid cancer, almost exactly a year later, my son, Lincoln, was diagnosed with leukemia.
Wow.
So when you talk about raising awareness, it's like a really broad question for me because I do my very best to, when I was Googling, because you're never supposed to Google what's happening to you, right? Like you're never supposed to Google your symptoms, but everybody does. And when I Googled necrotizing enterocolitis when my son was diagnosed in the NICU, I mean, it takes the lives of newborn babies in the NICU all the time. I don't remember what the survival rate is, but it was enough to freak us out. He went through it. At one point he had, of course he's like teeny tiny NICU baby too. So at one point I have a photo of him with an IV in his hand, an IV in his foot, and an IV in his head all at the same time. And it was blood, antibiotics, and fluids. Wow. And so, like I stand here though saying we're like a family of miracles. Everybody's happy and healthy, which is crazy. So like, yay for that. But all of my boys and my one girl are all healthy as can be.
Fighters.
Like, so it's crazy, right? Like I've been so incredibly blessed like through all this. So long story long, that's kind of how my content creation started. So we were in the NICU and I was like trying to update my friends and family because texting everybody back gets really hard, and you're like copy and pasting updates. And in the NICU, it's crazy. You're like in the incubators and then out of the incubators and then back in and then they're eating and then they're not eating and then he has to have this other thing done and then he was diagnosed. So it was like, it was crazy. And so, so basically I started just like posting. And I've said this before, but the first time I just kind of gave up on like texting everybody back. was when I like said the wrong name to somebody, you know, like you're, like everybody was just like so loving, and I always am so thankful that I never felt alone, you know, because everybody was just wanting updates of what was happening to them. Yeah. And so yeah, I ended up like copy and pasting, and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to post an update, and I wasn't even on Instagram at the time. It was literally Facebook, and which is like totally fine. No hate to anybody on Facebook, but I don't get on Facebook now, you know, like, so I'm like, but yeah, so that's kind of how it was. And I started just posting updates. And like I said, it was kind of just like whatever relevant thing happened and a photo, and everybody just started, you know, sharing. And Facebook is more of a sharing app than Instagram is. Facebook is like everybody shares everybody else's stuff. So yeah, it was like one day, you know, I had so-and-so's cousin's friend in Utah is like, hey, we're praying for Levi. And I was like, that's crazy, because it felt really weird at the time because I never had any sort of audience, and that's not really, I wasn't really like searching for that either at the time. But yeah, so that's kind of where it started. And then when I was diagnosed, I went through the whole thing again where I was like torn, because I think being a creator is like in my blood. I think, you know, a lot of creators feel that way. Like we're just born to, you know, create and do stuff. But I didn't really know, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, dang, you know, and so I went through the phase of like, do I post that I have cancer or do I not? And I did. I battled with that back and forth for a little while, and I decided, okay, well, whatever. And so I just kind of said, hey, this is what's going on with me. And then it was like a beautiful flood of encouragement and love from people, and, you know, people who have been through thyroid cancer. It was like an awesome little community of people who were like, oh, I got you, like, here's some advice here, here's this, there, and like, you know, in the best way. And then when Lincoln was diagnosed, it was just like, you know, so it was kind of like that times a million. And I did feel like I was in the creative space already. So it felt, I guess, like it just was what I was supposed to do at that point, you know, because I'd been doing it for a few years already. But yeah, so I guess that's like kind of how I stumbled into the creative space and into the industry. You know, I just started, obviously my content has kind of like shifted now, and you know, now that my family is healthy and happy, I mean, that's going to be my story forever, you know. But yeah, it's kind of shifted, and I've kind of been blessed with some cool opportunities and even more stuff that's coming up. And yeah, that's just kind of how I ended up here. So yeah, I mean, that's as authentic as it gets, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I love creating, and I've always been into photography. I've always been into fashion. You know, I've always loved hair and makeup and the beauty stuff, and that's kind of like what I had the desire to do, and like the type of content that I wanted to create, but like all this crazy stuff was happening to me. So it's kind of like, you know, I built this amazing community that has truly loved and supported us for, you know, this long. And so now everybody's just kind of, I have all these, you know, like a NICU bubble and a thyroid cancer bubble and like a childhood cancer bubble, like all these people, and it's a really beautiful thing. So yeah, I do fashion and beauty, and I raise awareness at every possible opportunity. And my life kind of came full circle when I was able to start serving nonprofits. So I serve on the committee for Wine and Wishes, which is the biggest annual gala that Make-A-Wish New Mexico holds.
Really?
So yeah, I'm able to do that. We have our gala coming up in May, which is really exciting. And yeah, so granting wishes is like a big part of my life.
Magic.
And, literally, yeah. So that, and there's another organization, Camp Enchantment, that I'm on the board of. It's a summer camp for kids who have had cancer. That's a really special place too, because we're fully staffed with medical professionals. So like kids who are currently receiving treatment can go.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really incredible. So yeah, I kind of had like a, woe is me, like, why is this happening to me? Like, bam, bam, bam. And it was 2018, 2019, and 2020. So it was like, no break.
Beautiful,
and then,
brutal
yeah.
years.
And then, when I guess I thought, okay, this is why I have this platform. This is literally why. Like, is to do this. And so I like to say, we do all these flashy, fun things, right? And like, we have to have the pretty hair and the tutorials and the fun jewelry. And like, we have to have things to get people's attention. But at the end of the day, the end goal is always to bring people to, back to what's important and kind of like, get them thinking about deeper things, I guess, is like my end goal. So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. If you didn't have more questions, I'm sure you do now.
Are you? Of course.
Yeah. I'm like, that's my whole life story.
I love that. And that's honestly incredible. And it really speaks to kind of never judging a book by its cover.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you would never know all of that. Yeah. Like, just by looking at you. Look amazing, by
Oh,
the way.
thank
I
you.
love your boots.
Thank you.
I was stuck on the
And I've been talking about your hair this whole time, like before we started filming. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. The hair, it's full of secrets, and it's what I'm known by, which is cool with me. I'm okay with it. Every secret you could have. But that's like part of my platform is like, every time, I get a compliment, I'm like, it's full of secrets. I'll show you like everything I do. I have, my color, my hair extensions, my everything, like, and I've done it all myself for as long as I can remember. So yeah, sharing my secrets is part of what I love to do.
I love it. Make it accessible.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, all the fun beauty stuff. But thanks for the compliments.
Always. But I also feel like it's so interesting because something that was kind of coming across my mind as you were talking was especially something with like influencing and kind of how you use it to give back, and just the art pretty much of influencing, because while many think it is easy, it is not.
Oh my
You
gosh.
can post all you want to, but unless you are doing it right and getting the right attention, you're not going to get the following that you're looking for. And it is a completely real job that takes a ton of work and a ton of time. And to dedicate that time, use that to give back, as well as use that to be so honest on social media. Like, I really love that.
It's rare.
I guess the question that came to my
sad,
mind,
yeah.
was there ever a moment where it was like the posting was helping you get through those moments?
Oh my gosh, yeah. 1,000,000%. One of my pinned posts, actually, right now, I have like, like an about me, and, like you pin what you want people to see first, right?
Yeah.
One of my pinned posts right now is a video that I actually made for Make-A-Wish. I didn't even know if I was going to post it. You know how like you post and post and post and post and post and post and post, and then some things are just so sacred that like you're almost like, nah, I'm just going to let that one live in my soul. Like, no joke. That's kind of how I felt about this video that I ended up publishing. It took me 2 years to publish it. It was the like, entertainment, or it was kind of like the presentation, I guess is the better word, for the Make-A-Wish gala in 2023. I always say the wrong year, 2023. And I ended up winning an award for that year too, which was really special for Make-A-Wish. They gave me the Shine the Light Award, which meant the world to me. But yeah, I ended up like creating this video, and this was what was crazy too about like being a content creator, and like you're saying, kind of like how those moments get you through it. In the hospital, with myself and with the twins, but especially with Lincoln, I just remember sitting there being like, I had no idea this was happening to people until it was happening to me. And there were little things like the nurses. Every nurse is a freaking angel. Like, they are all angels on earth, right? Like, but I learned when we were inpatient, because we're in the hospital and out of the hospital and into the hospital, like constantly, for years. And I learned really quickly that the nurses actually buy on their own dime all the little snacks that they have in oncology, for example. So Lincoln was like, when you have a sick child and the cafeteria is closed, you are plumb out of luck. There is like cheese, you know those hospital cheese blocks that they have? There's cheese. There might be like goldfish, you know, they have like Jell-O and popsicles, which is like the standard hospital things that they have, but nobody wants that. The kids, and especially the kids, don't want that. Like when you're an adult, it's kind of like, well, that's what you get.
Bring
like,
me the popsicle.
Bring your own snacks. No, which is crazy to even think about. But no, the kids don't want that. And you know, Lincoln, they would be like, do you want Pop-Tarts or do you want, you know, fruit roll-ups or do you want like whatever special thing? And they would constantly bring him that stuff, but I didn't know that they were buying that stuff. And I was like, what the heck? Like, how is that even a thing? Like, how does the hospital not have a budget? I just like, my little brain was like blown away. And so I immediately posted, can you guys believe that these angel nurses, and Lincoln was like the kid that ate all of it, right? And so I was like, and you know, they love the kids so much and they're so good at loving the kids. And so they'd bring 3 and they'd be like, pick one. And they'd always leave all of them, you know? Yeah. And so, yeah, that was like a little example of something where I like immediately got on social media and was like, why? Why? Like, this is crazy. And so then everybody's like, what can we do? And like, people are good. I'm such a believer, like, you know, we live in a fallen world and we live in a place, you know, that is yucky a lot of the time and really dark. But through these dark times, like, people are good. And I'm like holding on to that. But it was like times like that just was a prime example. Like, I had people flooding my messages being like, you know, what could we do? Let's donate or whatever. And then I would just be like, okay. And I would either have people like send me stuff and we would go shopping, or like people would go shopping and drop stuff off. Like, we just kind of worked it out like with really messy logistics because I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was that I was trying to make donations to the hospital. And we ended up like, I have old pictures down deep far in my Instagram of us. Like, I would have to go into the hospital and borrow like carts, huge carts, because I would come with like loads of snacks and just like drop them off. So it's just little things like that, you know, where the platform, I couldn't have done that by myself. I didn't have the budget to do that. You know, I contributed a little bit, but I couldn't have done that by myself, you know? And so that was just like an example of like what a platform can do, you know? And yeah, it was just really special. But going back to the video, and you know, all that kind of stuff, like, it totally healed me, you know? And that video that I was able to make for Make-A-Wish, oh my gosh, like, I bawled my eyes out the whole time. Like, making that video was so tough. It like took every ounce of like strength that I had to make that video, you know? But yeah, it totally healed me, and that's kind of where, sorry, I went down a rabbit trail, but what I was originally thinking was, like, when I was in the hospital during those times that I was kind of learning those things, the whole point was like, people don't know that this is a need. Like, that was the big picture, you know? People don't know. And if they did know, they would do something. And I proved that because they did, you know, even if it was $20 or a box of cookies, like, you know, And so I guess when I was there in those moments, I had this weird, like, conviction where I was like, it feels really weird to film some of these moments. But like, I felt like it was literally what I was put on this planet to do, was to raise awareness and show people what is happening. And yeah, like that video is a huge piece of what healed me. Yeah, which is crazy. So go watch it. Just kidding. Yeah, it'll make you cry. I promise. Like, get your tissues. No, for real. But yeah.
Wow. It's so powerful to hear about, you know, how you've been able to pour into other people, pour into, whether it's into your creation and, you know, into the lives of these kiddos, with these donations. I'm so inspired.
Oh, thanks.
I love it. And I'm curious a little bit more about, pouring into yourself, and especially she's like, stop it.
I know we never do that, right?
No, true. But a very close friend of mine, I love her so much. She was diagnosed with thyroid cancer in 2023. And
no way.
Yeah, and had the exact same procedure that
No
you did.
way.
Yeah, a full removal and had the radioactive iodine. I like sent DoorDash to her. And she's struggled on and off with kind of accepting and finding and adjusting to a new reality and finding hope. And she's such a creative person too. So I'm curious, for her and anyone else who's struggling with similar issues, like what got you through and helped get you to your new evolution?
Oh, I don't know, man.
All of the above.
I know, it's crazy. Like, I guess like it is so easy because all this stuff happened all at the same time. It is easy for me to just like gloss over the thyroid cancer. That was like kind of a big deal that happened to me personally, but like so much stuff was happening to my children. It was like such a bigger deal. It just took over. And I guess like you're never, given more than you can handle, I believe. And I guess, I would say, honestly, the online community that like I was kind of building at the time helped a ton. I mean, just with like being an outlet, like a creative outlet, because I was also like sharing, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool to do this, or it's like anytime you have a creative outlet that like has to do with whatever struggle you're going through, I think it's kind of just like healing to go through that process a little bit. But even just like in my DMs, like people would just be like pouring their hearts out to me because they went through the same thing, because they totally relate, or now it's kind of like the opposite, where now I get the DMs and it's like, hey girl, sorry this is weird, and I'm like, it's not weird, it's okay, like bring it on. Like, but I get the DMs that are like, hey, I was just Googling thyroid cancer and you popped up, or like whatever. And it's crazy like how all that stuff works. I don't even know how some of these people find me, but I used to use a lot of thyroid cancer hashtags. I guess that's probably where it comes from. But yeah, like I guess just the circle of people, and like the human little circle that we have, where like everybody was feeding me love and support, and then now I kind of get to do that too. And a lot of people are like, what is it going to be like? Or, they are just kind of looking for advice. And it's funny because every person who's diagnosed with thyroid cancer, maybe not every person, I can't speak for every person, but most of the time we get told by physicians that it's the best cancer that you can have. Listen, I never took offense to it. Like, I know it's crazy, like, and it's really wild because nobody wants to hear, like, you have cancer and it's the best kind you can have. Like, nobody wants to hear those two things in the same sentence. So I totally validate, like, people who are deeply offended by that. But I don't know, I kind of took it as, like, okay, good. You're right. You have the best cancer you could have. I was like, okay, that's good. Like, that's encouraging. I think that they're just, I think that when people say that, they're really just trying to tell you, like, you're gonna be fine, I guess. Like, and that's kind of how I took it. And the way that I was told was like wild. I got a phone call, and it was from a doctor who, meant well, poor guy. Just like no bedside manner, I guess. Oh, I'm scared. And he told me verbatim over the phone, you probably have thyroid cancer. And I just was like, everything else, like, like, I just was like, there's okay. Yeah, and I mean, it was 3 months later that I was officially diagnosed. So I just like lived with that like ringing in my head, like, you probably have thyroid cancer. I was like, okay. Wow. Yeah, it was crazy.
He could take notes from your storytelling ability. Even a couple more sentences would have been fine.
No joke. Like, and it was just like 7 a.m. because, I had because that's, going, like, I had no symptoms. That's like, I don't know. I wonder what your friend, like, ended up like why she ended up going in, but I had no symptoms. I had like consistent heart palpitations, and I did have a lump in my throat, but I don't know, I guess I had this like preconceived idea in my head of like what a lump would be like. Like women look for lumps, you know, we're supposed to at least. I guess I just thought that I knew what it would be like, but it was not. It was like soft, it didn't hurt. It was actually kind of like larger, so it didn't really like, so it stuck out even less, if that makes sense. Yeah. It was kind of just almost like it was almost just like a side of my neck kind of stuck out more than the other, but like not significantly. I look back at pictures and I'm like, you would have never known, and you wouldn't feel it. There was no like lump that was dramatic. Like it was just not what I thought. And so I had, consistent heart palpitations, but like that doesn't mean anything. You could have that for anything, like even anxiety, like literally anything can give you heart palpitations. And so I always say like it was the Lord, like I believe it. But like one day I was working retail and I was having these heart palpitations and they were just irritating me. Like I was like, ugh, they didn't hurt, nothing hurt, nothing hurt. Yeah. And all of a sudden I just like, I could not get rid of this pain, and it was not in my chest, it was not in my like abdomen, but it was like right here. And I just like dealt with that pain for like hours. I took medicine. I don't like pop Tylenol all the time. Like I took medicine. Like I used to wear this like hardcore waist trainer like post every pregnancy I've had. I always like was crazy about that. But like I tore that off at work, like trying to get rid of this pain, and it would not go away. And so and everybody's like, you need to just go in, and I'm like, that's so ridiculous. I'm not gonna go in. I'm not gonna do that. That's crazy. But yeah, if I didn't have that pain, I never would have gone in. Yeah. And so yeah, that pain turned out to be nothing. That's why I say like it was the Lord. But like they kind of were just, and I didn't have a primary. That's the other thing. I'm like, get a primary doctor, people. Like you have to have a primary because it takes a long time if you don't. Like, you know, and then something's wrong all of a sudden and you're plumb out of luck because you don't have a primary. So I was like in and out of urgent care, and it was so annoying. But yeah, pretty much no symptoms, and they were finally like, okay, let's just give you a 1-over. Let's check out, you know, your abdomen. Let's check out your thyroid. Let's just check you out and see what the heck's wrong with you. And then like, you know, you have a scan, right? And you're like, oh, I'll hear back in the next couple weeks, maybe. I always say to people, like, if you are on the bottom of the priority list, just shut up and be thankful, because I've been on the top of that priority list, like, 3 times, 3 times. And it's not the place you want to be. So 7 a.m. the next day. Wow. That was that guy, the guy. Great. The guy. Yeah. The guy. But yeah, no, it was 7 a.m. the next day. And so I was like, that's weird. And he's like, you probably have thyroid cancer. Literally, that's how that went. That's crazy. Yeah, crazy. So crazy. So I'm like raising awareness, but I'm like, just go to the doctor. Just go to the doctor. Be creative, go to the doctor. Yeah. Be creative, go to the doctor. Yeah, if you take away anything, I mean, right?
But Cassandra, your story is just so incredible. And as we're kind of rounding out, I just want to give the chance for any socials or websites or anything that people can follow you for, not only your story, but all that you do with Make-A-Wish, because I know you said you had a gala coming up and everything. Yeah. So that's exciting. We're going to sell out. So if anybody wants to buy tickets last minute, good luck. I'm just kidding. I just have my main social channel, which is Yo Chowda. It's kind of an ongoing joke because like it doesn't really mean anything. Everybody's like, wow, that's really incredible. What does that mean? I'm like, it's just something dumb that like me and my friends made up when we were 12, and perfect. I love it. Stuck. Yeah, so Yo Chowda. Go find it. But no, you can find me. You can always search. If you search Cassandra Rose Cooper, I usually come up too. I try to have that as the backup. I guess. Yeah, I guess you can use my name, but wonderful. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah. No,
you're
thank
so
you guys
wonderful.
for having
You're such
me.
like a ball of energy and light. I love it.
Thanks. That's so sweet. Yeah, thank you guys. You guys are sweet. Yeah. I told you. I'm like, if you were going to ask me questions, man, I could go on for hours because there's so much to cover. Like, there's so much to talk about. I know. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys for having me. It means a lot.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of The Creatives. I genuinely hope on YouTube you will like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us get the message out, be able to bring more people like Cassandra on, and just keep this rolling because we have a great time. Our producers hopefully enjoy having us on here. We're still here. We're episode TBD, but they seem to enjoy us, and we absolutely enjoy our guests, and especially being able to hear things like Cassandra's story is so strong. And if you have it, please be sure to donate to things like Make-A-Wish and just like whatever chance you have. I forget the exact quote that my mother always kind of gives me, but there's always someone out there going through what you have no idea. And just always kind of keep that in consideration. And once again, my name is Tevin Brown.
And my name is Simone Campbell.
And please have a great night.